Hey everybody, while this is loading up, I know we do not have class tomorrow, but I think we still should go over some of these things because they're going to be on the exam next week. So I'm looking at chapter 21. And if you go to the back of your book, the first one that I'm going to work on here is 2113, right? So 2113, right? And what they do is they sell, right? Sells for $180 per unit, right? We're just taking this stuff out, right? Variable costs are 135, and that is also per unit, right? We have the fixed cost, right, of 562,500. And then we have a target annual income of 1,012,500, right? And we're going to go ahead and just spread that out like that. And it's asking us to do two things. So the first one it is compute the unit sales to earn the target income, right? So that's question one. Well, there's a few things that we need to do for this. First, we're going to need to sit there and look through our formulas and figure out what darn formula do we need to figure out this here, right? So if you look, it's very similar to the break-even point calculation, where break-even is the fixed cost divided by the contribution margin, right? But for this one here, since we're doing unit sales, what we're going to do is we're going to use the formula of fixed costs plus target income, right? And we're going to divide that by the contribution margin per unit, right? Now I'm just going to go ahead and margin center, make it look nice. It doesn't take much to do, right? And you can see there we got the little division line right there. So we already have the fixed cost, right? We got that right there. And we have the target income. So we can go ahead and put that on top here, right? I'm just going to go ahead and put a line so it mirrors this. Now, the contribution margin per unit. That is an easy calculation. What we're going to do is we're going to take what we sell it for, and we're going to subtract out the variable cost per unit, right? It comes out to $45. Now, if we do this calculation, right, we are going to end up getting this divided by this will give us 35,000. Is that dollars? Is that units? That's units, right? Because that's what it asked for. That's why we use the contribution margin per unit instead of anything else, right? So 35,000 units is what we need to hit that target income per unit sales. Now it asks for us to do the dollar sales at target income. And there's really two different ways to sit there and kind of go about this, right? One is going to be that we're going to find out what the contribution margin ratio is. And to get that, we are going to take, let me just write this down, contribution margin ratio, right? And to hit that right there, what we were going to do is we're going to take that 45, which is the contribution margin per unit, and we're going to divide it by what we sell it for. And we're going to notice that it's 25%, right? The formula for this, it has the same top, right? It has uh, this right here, right? And now we're going to divide it though by the contribution margin ratio, right? So the formula is just a little different. We're dealing with dollars. We're not dealing with units. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way right here, right? We already got that. And I'm just going to divide it by that. And we're going to come out with this much money, right? Which is $6,300,000. There's an alternative way of doing this as well. Most of you may have already figured this out, and that is you just take the number of units to get to our target income and multiply it by the selling price, and you get the same exact thing. There's more than one way. Do what feels best for you. So that was 2113, right? Let's go ahead and do 2114 real quick. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and rename this one 21-13, right? And I'm going to rename this one 21-14. Perfect. So what information do we got, right? We have sales for 180 per unit, right? Variable cost per unit. I could have done that on the last one. 135. What do we got again? Companies, fixed cost, right? So let's just do fixed cost, and it's annoyingly the same as the last one. Everything is so far. The sales manager predicts that next year's annual sales of the company will be 40,000 units at $200, per unit. So, forecast, right? And that will be units sold, right? 40,000. Selling price 200. And then variable cost is going to increase to 140, right? Fixed cost is going to remain the same. What amount of income can the company expect to earn underneath these predicted changes? And that gives us a hint, right? Prepare a contribution margin income statement shown here, right? Oh, all right. Well, let's go ahead and set that up, right? And since I've already messed with these over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set this up here, and I am going to do it exactly as it looks, right? Why am I doing it this way? Because it just makes it, oh, we don't need that. We don't have that for the month ending, right? And I'm going to do Sun Co up top. So we're doing this so that way it looks uniform. Accounting is all about the systems in place and making sure that anybody can walk in and know exactly what the heck he did, right? And you can notice here we have sales, right? We have variable costs. We have the contribution margin. If I can spell, that would be fantastic. Margin, right? We have fixed costs and we have income. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. All right. Let's just adjust that just a little bit. There we go. Right. And when we look back, we knew that we were going to do sales of 40,000 units at $200, right? We knew that the variable costs were going to be, again, 40,000 units. And that was going to be at, if I can find the darn ampersand, at $140 per unit. The contribution margin is going to be 40,000 units, and that will be at $60. And then fixed costs are going to remain the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and expand that out. I put that in there. You don't necessarily have to. You can see they did it over here, right? We need to calculate the contribution margin so that way you know that I'm not bluffing here. And to get that, similar with the last problem, we take the selling price and we subtract out the variable cost. And we see here, oh, look at that. I was right. So sales, right? We're going to take this times this, right? We're going to take this times this for variable costs. We're going to take this times this for the contribution margin. Now, there's one nice, easy way for you to check to make sure that you are doing your math right? And that's equals this minus this. Good. They match up, right? Let's get rid of that. There we go. Fixed cost. That is still going to be just that because those don't change, right? Let's do a little formatting here real quick. Style isn't necessary, but it is appreciated. I'm going to put a line underneath to show that I did some math, and I'm just going to take this minus this, and that's how much income we can expect to get there. Right, and it's great. Look at that. My session has ended. Fun. So, just like you, I sometimes have to go back in, right? Find my book and get back to where I was, right? So, problem, we were in 21. Chapter 21. And we were at the exercises, and we were down here at 14. Right? Any questions on that? So this was 21:14. And this right here, if you look again over here, it's very similar, right? So that works out in our favor. Now, how do I go back? Oh, there we go. Next question. I think that we will do one of the big problems, right? And to get to that, we go here and we click on this, right? And we're going to get us a new worksheet. We're going to rename it. And I think I'm actually going to end up doing problem set B. For some reason, that has been a little bit better for us so far. So let me just get this going. 21B, right? And if you read this over, and you really should, right? You need to read these carefully to make sure that you're doing everything you can as right as possible. And you look here, and it's again, it's a Sunco issue, right? The monthly data for the following year, management wants to use this data to predict the future. All right. So we got a table. Well, let's go ahead and transcribe that table right in here, right? Month, units sold, and total cost, right? So we got 1, 2, and we start off with 1, 2. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm a little lazy. So I go like that, right? And we had 195, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 155, 95, 215, 0.5. Right? It gets a little tedious, but this always, well, not always, but typically I find that it pays off to go ahead and take everything out of the problems and put it right into the Excel sheet. And 79. Right. And I'm just going to go ahead and verify that I did these numbers right by making this one comma without any kind of um, decimal points. And I like the way that money looks, so we're going to go with that. Right. And then if you just take a look real quick and you make sure that you didn't screw anything up. So if you end up with 1,000,000 of something, you know that you went somewhere wrong. Right. Or if you only end up with 1,000 of something, it's easier to catch when you have your commas in place. All right. So required for one, right? One is to estimate both the variable costs per unit and the total monthly fixed cost using the high-low method. And of course, since I can't spell to save my life, I messed up monthly. Okay. So how do we do this, right? So the first part we need to do is we need to figure out the calculation of the variable and the fixed cost, right? So variable costs, right? And we're sitting there and we're using the high-low method, right? And if we look at the high-low method, let me just scooch that out just a second, right? We look at the high-low method right here, and we see that 110,000 was the high, right? And we can do high, right? We can do equal max, right? Of that, right? And we can do low, and we can do equal minimum, right? And that, and it'll automatically draw it out. It reduces human error quite a bit. That's not all, though, right? We need to do the high equals max of the number of units sold, right? That won't impact much, but I'm going to go ahead and fix that just in case I accidentally put a number there, right? And equals minimum of the number of units sold as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the high minus the low for both of these, right? So we're going to do equals this minus this, all right? So we got the variance there, and we're going to take this minus this to get us the difference between the units, and then we're going to take the dollars divided by the units to get us our variable cost per unit, right? So let's go ahead and put a line there, right? And then I am going to go ahead and just be VCU, right? Variable cost per unit equals this divided by this. And we get 40 cents, right? That is dollars. So we're going to go ahead and put the little bling there, right? So for fixed costs, right? We notice that the total cost for the high thing is 110,000, right? So the fixed cost plus the variable cost per units will be the total cost, right? So we got equals, it's the high, amount of cost, right? And then we're going to have to figure out what it is with the total variable cost for that. So equals this times the number of units sold at the high, right? We're not doing it at the low. This is all at the high. So it's equal footing right there, right? So this is the total, and now I'm going to go ahead and put a few spaces in there if you don't mind. All right. Total cost, total variable cost at 215,000 units, right? And then we're going to have our fixed cost. And we're going to do a little wrap text there, right? So to get that, we're just going to take equals this minus this gives us that, right? And that is also dollars. So we're just going to go ahead and make that look nice. This right here is our fixed cost. Perfect. This doesn't change, right? Fixed cost inherently stays the same no matter the volume that we do things. So we can now finally move on to part two. Part two is use the answers for the variable and fixed costs from part one to predict future total cost when sales volume is at 100,000 units and 170,000 units. Right? So it says total costs at 100,000 units and total costs at 170,000 units. Just a little bit. There we go. Right? In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just delete that, and you'll see why in just a second. All right, I'm guessing some of you have already figured out what I'm going to do at 100,000 units and 170,000 units, right? So, how do we do this, right? Well, let's go ahead and just create a nice little table here for us, right? And we're going to call that predictions. Okay, and we're going to have units, fixed costs, variable costs, right, and total costs. So units, we got equals that and equals that. Perfect. All right, fixed cost. We said that does not change no matter what. So we're just going to go ahead and do it that way. Now the variable cost, right? We know how many units, we know the variable cost per unit. So we're just going to end up taking the number of units that we're selling, and we're going to multiply it by the variable cost per unit for each of these two problems. There we go, right? So we're going to have to do a little math because we're going to do the total cost. So I'm going to go ahead and put a nice little line there, and I'm going to do equals sum, and I'm going to select these two numbers because those are both the costs. And right there, we end up with 64,000 and 92,000. Right? Part three is a scatter diagram, and yeah, no, we're not doing that. We can, but right? What else do we got? I think that's good enough for right now. please go through your homework. If you end up having any kind of issues, I want you to reach out to me as soon as possible. We have our exam next Thursday. On Friday, I can make myself available for some office hours if you'd like, or tomorrow afternoon when the storm dies down, I'll probably come into the office and I can do some team meetings or Zoom or whatever the heck you want to call it, right then and there. Just let me know and we will get this going. If you have anything for me, please let me know. Until then, enjoy. Please watch this video. If you watched this far, you did it. So why did I say that? Who knows? Enjoy. Bye.